Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're taking a pretty incredible journey, actually.
Yeah, not across land or sea this time.
No, definitely not. We're looking at a year spent way up in space. Through the eyes of an astronaut, we'll be drawing from their own reflections after a long mission on the International Space Station.
Right. And our goal here really is to pull out the key lessons, both the scientific stuff and the deeply human side of things too.
We've got the astronaut's own writings to guide us.
Exactly. And the mission for us and for you listening is to kind of get past the usual headlines. We want to dig into the practical knowledge, the personal insights gained from actually living in orbit for a whole year.
So it's not just about one big discovery.
Not at all. It's more like an accumulation of insights, some big, some small, that together really reshape how we think about spaceflight and maybe even ourselves a little.
Okay, so what we're trying to do for you today is give you let's say, a concise but still pretty thorough understanding of what it really means to live and work in space long term.
Yeah, the science, the personal stuff, the challenges, all of it.
The sheer, stick-to-itiveness of it all. Let's get started.
Okay, so a year in space. I mean, that's just an amazing opportunity for science, right?
Absolutely.
The astronaut was part of a ton of studies. One that gets a lot of buzz is the comparison with their twin brother back on Earth.
Ah, the twins study.
Right. It gives researchers this incredibly unique way to see what the space environment actually does to the human body, comparing genetically identical individuals. It's powerful stuff.
So it's not just about cataloging changes, is it? It's more about figuring out the mechanisms behind how space affects us and maybe even how we age in general.
Precisely. Some of the early findings hinted at things with telomeres, those caps on our chromosomes.
Yeah, I remember reading about that. Accelerated shortening, maybe?
Potentially, yeah. Which, could echo some aspects of aging we see on Earth, but triggered by space conditions. It's fascinating.
And what else stood out scientifically?
Well, there's the fluid shifts study. That's really important because, in microgravity, your bodily fluids go all over the place.
Right, which can cause vision problems and other issues for astronauts.
Exactly. So this study is looking promising for figuring out how to counteract those effects on longer missions, Mars missions, for instance.
Exactly.
And then there are the eye studies themselves. They're not just trying to solve the mystery of why some astronauts' vision degrades.
But they could also teach us more about eyes generally, anatomy, disease, that sort of thing.
That's the hope, yeah. It could have benefits right here on Earth.
So what really strikes you, looking back at the science from that year?
I think it's the emphasis on the long game. The astronaut makes a really good point. The sample sizes are often tiny. Sometimes just two people, like in parts of the twin study.
So you need more data, more time.
Way more data. And with hundreds of experiments running over that year, the results, they're going to keep emerging for years, decades even.
It's a reminder that science often works step by step, incrementally.
Totally. It's a marathon, definitely not a sprint.
Okay, so the science is ongoing.
Yeah.
But beyond those formal experiments, it sounds like there were some really crucial practical lessons learned too, just about the day-to-day reality up there.
Oh, absolutely. Look, when you're trying to keep people alive and working in that kind of extreme environment for a whole year, you get incredibly focused on managing everything, especially resources. Even tiny decisions about, water usage or power consumption feed into the bigger picture of how to make these really long missions sustainable.
And that astronaut mentioned specific struggles, right, with CO2 management and the CEDRA, that's the CO2 scrubber.
Yeah, the CEDRA system. And that wasn't a minor headache, believe me.
Sounds tricky.
It was. In fact, the problems they had keeping CO2 levels down directly impacted NASA's planning.
How so?
Well, NASA actually decided to lower the target CO2 levels allowed for future missions because of that experience.
Yeah.
And it really pushed the development of better, more reliable scrubber technology up the priority list.
Wow. So a direct operational challenge leading to concrete changes for the future.
Exactly. That's how you learn and improve for missions to, say, Mars. You learn from what happens on the ISS.
Those technical hurdles, they really drive home how tough the environment is. But then, shifting completely, you have this incredibly human moment, the astronaut getting back and just jumping into a swimming pool, still in the flight suit.
Yeah, that image really sticks with you, doesn't it?
It does. It says so much about appreciating something as simple as water after being away from it like that.
For sure. And think about the adjustment, too. Suddenly not living life according to mission timelines, crew schedules, constant planning. After doing that since, what, 1999?
That's a huge mental shift, adjusting back to, well, normal life.
A monumental shift. It really shows how all-consuming that career path is.
But it wasn't just about missing earthly things or getting used to a new routine, right?
Yeah.
It sounds like there were deeper changes happening internally.
Definitely. The astronaut talks about getting better at staying calm under pressure, which, you'd expect, but also honing the skill of compartmentalization, really focusing energy on what you can control and just letting go of the rest.
That sounds like a superpower, frankly. Useful anywhere, not just space.
I think so. It's a powerful psychological tool learned under extreme circumstances.
And then there were these wonderfully grounded moments, too, like the lesson from watching their mother train as a police officer.
Yeah, that small steps lead to big achievements. It's such a universal principle, isn't it? Very down to earth, even after a year in orbit.
Absolutely. And the food thing. The intense longing for shared meals.
Oh, that was powerful. That feeling of isolation, missing that simple act of eating together. It led them to buy a new dining table as soon as they got back.
Just to have that experience again.
Exactly. And that description of the first family meal back home with their daughters, their husband.
Yeah.
There was this moment, this unconscious gesture mirrored with a family member. It just speaks volumes about those deep connections, how they were tested by the distance, but maybe even strengthened in the end.
It really makes you value those everyday moments of connection. Okay, shifting gears a bit. The astronaut also had some interesting thoughts on knowledge, collaboration, even language.
Yeah, what's cool there is the mix of humility and real wisdom. The idea that, okay, some problems are rocket science.
Literally.
Yeah, literally. And for those, you absolutely need the experts. But realizing that most problems aren't, and knowing who to call when you do need that expertise, that's key in any complex job.
And acknowledging that it's not just one person's achievement up there.
Oh, totally. Recognizing it's built on the work of thousands of people. That collaborative aspect is huge in spaceflight.
And wait, what was that about the Russian language? That caught my eye.
Oh, right. That was a fascinating little cultural insight. Apparently, Russian has a richer, more complex vocabulary for both cursing and for friendship than English does.
Huh. Really? That is interesting. What do you make of that?
Well, it's just a neat observation, maybe says something about cultural emphasis, And the astronaut also talks about the paradoxes of the whole experience.
Like what?
Like how the year away could strain relationships but also strengthen them, or feeling this intense sense of being alive while also confronting your own mortality every day.
That duality must be incredibly intense.
It sounds like it. Captures the extremes of it all.
And this feeling that American space exploration is at a kind of crossroads now that feels very relevant.
It really does. Are we going to keep pushing further out towards Mars and beyond, or are we going to maybe scale back our ambitions? The decisions being made now are pretty critical for the future.
Definitely something to think about. Now, bringing it back down to Earth, literally, the astronaut's description of reconnecting with simple sensations, the feel of grass, the wind, rain.
It's incredibly vivid, isn't it? Makes you want to go outside and just pay attention.
Yeah. It's a powerful reminder of what we take for granted here.
Absolutely. The richness of our own planet's sensory experience. And, there's also the honest admission of the cost. Missing important moments, milestones in their daughters' lives while they were gone.
That's the personal sacrifice that often comes with these demanding, all-consuming careers, isn't it?
It is. And then there's that contrast, seeing the chaos of Earth's news from orbit, but still being overwhelmed by its beauty and, well, its preciousness.
That shift in perspective,
yeah,
it's hard to imagine fully. And, hey, the little comment about voluntary spinal taps.
Yeah, definitely not recommended. A bit of dark humor there.
Adds a touch of realism.
But importantly, beyond the humor, there's this sense of developing new empathy. For people, even those you disagree with, and making a conscious effort to actually tell people you appreciate them.
Those sound like really positive, lasting changes from the experience.
I think so. Significant personal growth.
The astronaut also talks about their body almost like a scientific instrument itself, which is a really interesting frame.
It is. Experiencing that initial feeling of being okay after landing, but then hitting a wall physically, feeling the decline, it makes the body's role in the research very tangible.
And that commitment to keep participating in the twin study, even after returning.
Yeah, knowing that the insights might take years to fully materialize, it really shows a deep dedication to the whole scientific project, to advancing human knowledge, even if the payoff isn't immediate or personal, just being grateful to contribute.
That commitment is clear, And as they reflect, there's also this strong current of legacy and dealing with loss. The passing of their father soon after they got back.
That's a very moving part of the reflections. You hear about their father's pride, his love for the family. It's clear how much that meant.
And finding comfort with their daughter there during that difficult time. It really highlights the importance of family.
Absolutely. Those connections anchoring you through the hardest moments. And there's this belief, this feeling that their father kind of held on, lived to see the mission completed.
That provides a powerful sense of closure, I imagine.
It seems to, a sense of meaning woven into the loss.
Finally, let's talk about memory. The astronaut mentions having 500,000 images from the mission. Wow.
500,000. And each one apparently acts like a key, unlocking specific moments, sensory details. It's like a personal high-def archive of the whole year.
Can you give some examples they mentioned?
Oh, yeah. Things like seeing Misha and Sergei at dinner, Samantha Cristoforetti on the treadmill, the aurora, hurricane from above, even really specific things like a dirty filter with a long hair stuck to it.
Mundane details alongside the spectacular.
Exactly. Photos of a Seadra connector they were troubleshooting, a floating iPad showing a baby picture, Tim Peake getting ready for a spacewalk, Kjell Lindgren flying down the corridor, a specific conversation with Gennady Padalka. It paints such a vivid picture of life up there.
And that final memory, seeing the ISS itself as they departed in the Soyuz.
That sounds breathtaking. They describe it, the size of a football field, the huge solar arrays glittering, this incredible, unique structure.
Assembled in space.
Piece by piece by astronauts from different countries over 18 years, just floating there.
In a realization that they'd probably never see it like that again.
Yeah, that sense of finality, but also immense gratitude for having been part of its story. It really drives home what the ISS represents. It's just this incredible triumph, right? Of engineering, yes, but maybe even more, of international cooperation. Proof that humans can solve incredibly hard problems when we decide to work together.
That's a powerful thought, and it leads right into the idea of Mars.
Exactly. The astronaut acknowledges it will be incredibly hard, risky, expensive, all of that.
Yeah.
But after that year, after seeing what humanity achieved with the ISS, there's this newfound certainty. It is achievable if we collectively decide we want to do it.
A very forward-looking note to end on.
Definitely.
Yeah.
A testament to what's possible.
So, wrapping up this deep dive then, we've really journeyed through a lot. The hard science data, the practical nuts and bolts knowledge learned from living in space.
And those profound personal shifts, changes in perspective and priorities that came from that unique vantage point.
It really underscores our human ability to adapt, to learn, to be resilient, doesn't it? Whether you're facing, the vacuum of space or just the complexities of life down here.
Absolutely. And those insights about collaboration, about tackling huge problems together, those are takeaways you can apply almost anywhere, in any field.
For sure. And it leaves me, and hopefully you listening, with this thought. If we could build something as complex, as ambitious as the International Space Station, working together across nations for decades, what other challenges that seem maybe insurmountable right now here on Earth, might we also be able to tackle if we brought that same kind of focus, that same collaborative spirit to bear?
That's a really powerful question to ponder.
It is. Something to think about. Thanks for